Good morning. Welcome to East Willemberry Municipal Council agenda for Tuesday, October 6, 2020. I'd like to call this meeting to order at this time and ask if there's any declarations of interest. Seeing none, I will move along to community announcements. There are a couple of community announcements at this time. This past Friday, I had the pleasure of participating in a Zoom call hosted by Her Honor Elizabeth Dowswell, and was joined by several women mayors across Ontario. The subject of the call was the impact of COVID-19 on women, and we discussed the importance of investing in early learning and childcare and the need for appropriate funding. It was a very interesting meeting, and for me, the difference between Northern Ontario and Southern Ontario, there were certainly a lot of differences that took place with the discussion with those mayors, particularly from the north. Very different issues than what we are seeing. Also on Saturday, with members of council, I welcomed Her Honor Elizabeth Dowswell to East Willemberry and joined her on a grounds tour of the Sharon Temple. Following her visit to the temple, Her Honor attended the East Willemberry Farm to Fork tour, which was sold out this year, so congratulations to the Sharon Temple. On Thursday, October 8th, the East Willemberry Farmers Market will host their final day. Please come out and support our local vendors. Thanksgiving is this weekend. Get all your fresh produce, baking, prepared foods, and more. And this morning, with our fire chief, I accepted a third delivery of medical masks from the Welland development. These will be distributed as needed in our community, and thank you so much to Welland Development for their generosity. We are now into October, and October attribute is inclusiveness. I will work to build a community where everyone feels included, empowered, and valued for his or her unique contributions. What is inclusiveness? Inclusiveness is when you make everyone feel welcome and appreciated. I will take time to learn about the similarities and differences in my community, encourage success in others by supporting their strength and recognizing and celebrate differences, include others' equity, manage culture change openly towards greater levels of inclusivity, help promote a sense of belonging to all our community members. And with that, I will now move to item D on our agenda, and it is our COVID updates, and I believe our fire chief is going to, oh, sorry, just a moment. Councillor Roy D. Clemente, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Just for a community announcement, Madam Mayor, I just wanted to close the loop from September 23rd to the 27th. Our small but mighty team of 6 from Team EG participated in the virtual Run for Southlake, and we raised collectively $6,600 for Southlake's priority needs. Just wanted to let folks know that and express my appreciation to our teammates and to those who supported us financially and physically and emotionally. So just a good news story all around. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Mr. Webster, do you have something under community announcements as well?
I do not, Madam Mayor. I did want to speak and introduce the next item, though.
Very good. Go ahead, please.
I did want to check just in the virtual world here. A couple of times, Madam Mayor, I'm at the town hall today. Your voice was hung up and video was hung up for a bit, and the same with Councillor Roy D. Clemente. I don't know if that just happened to me or if we're having production issues. So just checking. Did the mayor hang up for anyone else? Nope.
Not
okay.
me. Not at this end.
Could be my office. It's could be issues here. So I think I'm about 18 feet away from you, Madam Mayor. So I thought I'd have crystal clear quality. So just to kick off today, we have our COVID team continues to meet on a weekly basis. We're into month 8 of our municipal response. I don't think any of us would have predicted this would have carried on this far, and certainly things out in the provincial level and York regional level are having further implications at this point as we follow it on a daily basis. I thought it would be advisable that to to let folks know, we've had two co-leads on this project, General Manager and Deputy CAO Mark Valchich, and we've had the town fire chief and our CEMC director, Rob McKenzie. And so I thought it would be appropriate to have Rob walk us through today's update memo so he can just introduce the fact he has been leading the municipal response along with Mark.
Welcome, Chief.
Rob may be having worse issues than I was having, but I think he's in the building as well. So hopefully Rob is with us.
Chief, you're muted, I believe.
Yeah, my issues are my own, Mr. CAO. I just forgot to unmute myself. So here we go. We're off to a good start. Thank you very much for the opportunity to provide you with the COVID update number 10 from our group. But if I start at a higher level, just at the province, we've all been watching the news quite closely, and we know that Thanksgiving's coming, and the province is starting to limit capacities, not only for restaurants and outdoor nightclubs and whatnot, but also they're encouraging people to restrict their social bubbles and their interactions with their families. When we drop down to the region, I spoke with the region yesterday, my contact there. There's still a pressure point on staffing for them as they redeploy staff to try to do the case contact work. So that's putting some issues on their side. They're monitoring closely the long-term care, the vulnerable occupancies. They were the ones that were impacted before, and they're starting to become an issue now. There's no change at the region with their EOC. The status is the same, and there's no discussions at their level of terminating this state of emergency. And again, in our group, we haven't even discussed that yet. So I think it's safe to say that we're in for a little bit more of a long haul. Our linkage to the REOC is strong. We've increased our meetings back to once a week with them, and the communication is great. And Laura James is just a phone call away. The region has adopted, and most municipalities have adopted, a mandatory mask protocol, which what they're saying, if you move, you mask. And I think like I said, most municipalities have adopted it. And I know here in East Willemberry, we've all sort of said that this is, if you're not at your desk and you're up moving around, put a mask on. So there's numbers posted in there more specific to East Willemberry. They're a few days old, so I won't bother with revising those, but I'm sure we've all been to the region website, their interactive website that can give you the current numbers. Despite all this, CPRC is still doing a lot of good, innovative ideas for keeping some of these services going, or even if they're on a virtual basis. So there's a number of things happening that way. One of the things that we were discussing with the group was the fact that the hockey program is still going on, and there was a bit of a pressure point from the user group, from the folks, or from the parents, hoping to get at least one parent in, under this what do they call it, the U7 age group. So we're discussing that, and the plan is to sort of implement that after Thanksgiving, where one parent can go in and tie skates and be a spectator. Working on with the virtual Hallow Week, and of course we were discussing the bit of a phased reopening of municipal facilities, but given the situation over the last couple of weeks, we've put that on hold, and we've all agreed that we're just going to take a pause and just do status quo for now. The library actually reduced their occupancy limits from 25 back down to 10 as a precaution. And just the final note, we like to put this on, and we like to make sure that it does see some airtime, and just the fact that the HR division with Michelle Collette, they're tapping into and making sure that staff are aware of mental health, and we're all sort of reaching out to each other just to make sure that we're talking about that. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer, but that's pretty much the summary of the update number 10.
Thank you, Chief. Questions of the Chief? Councillor Roy DiClemente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Chief Mackenzie. One of the messages that I keep hearing from public health and from officials in this is that the importance of the COVID alert app and making sure that people have it downloaded on their phones. I wonder if it might be appropriate for us to request or mandate that any of the town phones that we have, so the phones that our staff are carrying or that the municipal tax dollars are paying for, that we ensure that the app is downloaded to those phones. Obviously, it's only as good as people actually recording their positive test results, but regardless, this might be a prudent way to proceed. I just thought I would raise that as an option for us to simply require that if you've got a town phone, that it has the app on it. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to quickly answer that, agreed. And Chris McPherson's been looking into it, and I think we've got that on the agenda for our meeting tomorrow morning with the COVID group.
Thank you. Any other? Councillor Councillor Crothers.
Thanks. Thank you for the update. And as we all are sort of in this limbo for so long, keep thinking that it's temporary. Someone said to me, it's a combination of a sick day and the holidays. It just goes on and on and on. Anyways, I worry about our staff and how hard they're working, and just want to make sure that they are taking their holiday time as we move into, what is it, month 7, Mr. Webster said. I worry about people banking their holidays and burning themselves out now, but also in the future ending up with all of our staff needing to take all of their holiday time in the same month when we're past this. So I'm just hoping that we're monitoring that and making sure that staff are taking their holidays so that they can have a bit of a break from everything.
Thank you. Councillor Persuccini.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. How are we handling university students coming home and to advise our staff? Do they have to be quarantined for 14 days if they got to go back to school? Or do they stay 14 days without seeing anybody at the university, then they come home? There's a lot of young people coming home this weekend for Thanksgiving to see their parents, and a lot of these parents are working with us. How do we handle that? How would you recommend that the chief to handle this situation?
Chief Mackenzie, would you have an answer for Councillor Persuccini, please?
I'd love to, but I didn't hear the first part of that. I just wondered if maybe the CEO heard that, or if not, maybe you could repeat it, Councillor?
Yes, I can. There'll be a lot of young people coming home from university this weekend, and a lot of these young people have parents who work with our staff, are part of our staff. What do you recommend for them to advise to the young people coming through? Do they stay away from? Well, it's too late now. 2 weeks is not going to be enough. What do you recommend them to do? Do they have to stay far away from them? Do they wear masks? Do they do outside gathering? I don't know. What's the proper way to handle it?
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, if they haven't come from out of province or out of country, I don't think there's a requirement for them to quarantine or to self-isolate. But I think if the families are employing the protocols that we all are, maintaining their a limited social bubble, and when they go outside to mask and clean their hands and sanitize, I think as long as people are doing that, we're all sort of working together. I don't think that we should have a problem.
I don't think that's what I meant. They're socialized with all the young people down at the school. Now they come home, they could have COVID-19 like some of those kids, and now they mix in with the parents. That's what I was getting at. And there's no way to check. That's what I meant. It's hard to gauge this. Sorry.
Exactly. Yeah.
I would say common sense certainly should prevail in this case, and all of our residents have heard the many warnings that have been out there through our health department, etc. That we hope that they've paid attention to that and keeping our entire community safe. Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just maybe to add on to that, I was watching CP24 this morning, the doctor that they speak to every day actually indicated that he thought it was a good idea to maybe treat Thanksgiving the same way as Easter was treated, and maybe some of those people should think about not coming home for this weekend, however tough that may be, but that was their thought process.
Thank you. Any other questions for the chief? Any comments? Thank you. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Crothers and Councillor Roy D. Clemente. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much, Chief. Appreciate it. We are now at item E on our agenda, and we have a statutory public meeting today. Official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment, Vietnamese Buddhist Zen Meditation Center, 22093 Highway 48. And we do have procedures that I will now read. Statutory public meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, this portion of the council meeting is a statutory public meeting under the Planning Act. The purpose of this meeting is to inform the public and obtain public input on planning applications received by the town prior to a full technical analysis being conducted by our staff. No decision to approve or refuse an application will be made here today. There will be presentations from both town planning staff and the applicants on the development applications. Following these presentations, members of the public will be invited to offer their comments or concerns respecting the proposals. Submissions can also be made in writing. I will then ask either staff or applicant to answer questions related to the applications. Once we have heard from members of the public, I will ask members of council if they have any questions or comments. And your participation today is welcome, and by hearing all comments will enable us to make an informed decision. It should be noted that a comprehensive report will be prepared by staff and presented to a future committee of the whole meeting, assessing the merits of the application before us and providing council with recommendations on whether the proposal should be approved, modified, or refused. It is very important that the town receive the names and addresses of individuals having an interest in the planning applications. Therefore, if you plan to speak to council at this meeting, or you wish to be notified of any future council meetings concerning the application being considered, you must contact Jack Smith, our town planner. Under the Planning Act, the applications or residents have a right to appeal any decision of council on planning applications to the local planning appeal tribunal. But you must verbally express any comments or concerns here today, or submit any concerns or comments in writing to the town before the plan is adopted or bylaw is passed. The tribunal may dismiss all or part of an appeal made in respect of an application. The public meeting is being audio and video recorded for storing and broadcasting on the internet. Your name, address, comments, and any other personal information is being collected and maintained for the purpose of sending correspondence relating to matters before council and creating a record that is available to the public in hard copy format and on the internet in electronic format pursuant to Section 27 of the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Questions about the collection of personal information should be directed to the town clerk. I will now ask the General Manager of Development Services to begin with the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you mentioned, so we do have official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment for this property. We have our planner, Jack Smith, who will provide a brief overview of the applications for council's consideration. And then we will turn it over to the applicant's planning consultant, Ms. Deborah Alexander, who will be speaking to the specifics of the proposal. At this point, I don't believe we have any members of the public who have requested to provide comments virtually. But again, this is a public meeting, and we will continue to receive comments up until we do a final report on this sometime in the new year. So, Madam Mayor, at this point, I will turn it over to our planner, Jack Smith, who will go through the proposals before council. Jack?
Thank you.
Hi,
Hello,
good
Mr.
morning.
Smith.
Hope everyone is doing well. So as Marco has outlined, today I'll be doing a brief overview of the property, the proposed uses, and the status of the planning applications. If we move on to the next slide, I can begin with the site information. So 22093 Highway 48 is located on the east side of Highway 48, north of Bogue Road. The property has approximately 128 meters of frontage and has a lot area of approximately 20 acres. Highway 48 is a provincial road. Next slide, please. The subject property is designated rural and environmental protection area within the town's official plan. The rural area designation includes lands that support a variety of agricultural and agricultural-related uses. It is meant to provide for the primary location for a range of institutional and commercial and industrial uses to service the rural populace. The environmental protection area designation is meant to identify the town's natural heritage system. Regarding the natural heritage system, the subject property is identified as core area, which consists of provincially, regionally, and locally significant features that represent critical components of the town's natural heritage system. Next slide, please. The subject property is currently zoned rural within the town zoning bylaw 2018-043 as amended. The RU zone permits a wide range of agriculture and agricultural related uses. Currently, a place of worship is not permitted within the zoning bylaw. Slide, please. So the applicant has come in with two applications. The first application is an official plan amendment. The OPA proposes to amend the policies applying to the lands to permit the existing monastery and associated place of worship to remain on the property within the underlying rural designation. The amendment will also include updating the boundaries of the environmental protection area designation and natural core area based on the findings of the natural heritage evaluation, which was submitted with the application. And if we go to the next slide, I can cover what the proposed zoning bylaw amendment covers. So the zoning bylaw amendment proposes to rezone the lands from rural to a new site-specific zone, which will permit a place of worship as well as the other RU zone permissions. The site-specific zoning bylaw amendment has also proposed to redefine the term place of worship to recognize the existing monastery on the subject lands. The monastery is the living quarters in which they live in. Currently, our definition of place of worship doesn't include these associated living quarters. And if we move on to the next slide, we can take a brief look at the conceptual site plan. So the main building identified on this conceptual site plan is the monastery where the monks are actually living. There is a meditation building just to the east of it, and there's a prayer area to the northeast of the site. This conceptual site plan does show a proposed kitchen addition, parking spaces, and a relocated driveway. But they're not a part of this official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment process. They'll rather be reviewed as part of a future site plan application made to the town. If we move on to the next slide, a preliminary review of the proposed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment applications are currently being reviewed by internal departments and external agencies. We expect a second submission in the near future following the finalization of comments on this first round of submission. We've identified the following matters to be addressed before a final report is prepared for council's consideration. The first matter relates to consistency and conformity with provincial, regional, and local planning policies. So one of the comments we received from the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority has indicated that they would like to see conformity with Section 3.1 of the provincial policy statement, which speaks to natural hazards. And it needs to be demonstrated that conformity to Section 3.1 exists in order to support residential intensification, that kitchen addition we saw earlier on the conceptual site plan, as well as safe access to the site. So it is my understanding that the applicant has been working on a topographical survey to address these concerns. We will also continue to review the Greenbelt policies to ensure conformity with the Greenbelt plan. Some other matters staff are reviewing includes the appropriateness and compatibility of the existing uses or the existing use, review for any other zoning provision deficiencies, such as parking spaces. This will be reviewed as part of the future site plan application. And the town and LSRCA will continue to review the natural heritage evaluation. If we move on to the next slide, we can take a look. At the time of preparing this presentation and to date, as of right now, staff have received a single letter from a nearby landowner in support of the applications. The letters confirm that the uses have been in operation since 2004, and at this time, no other comments have been provided to staff. Next slide. So in conclusion, staff will undertake a technical review of the subject application, including discussions from today's public planning meeting. The applicant will submit a formal site plan in the near future for council's consideration, and a comprehensive report with recommendations for the official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and site plan application will be presented at a future council meeting. So if we move on to the next page, I have my contact information here. If anybody has any questions or would like to be notified in the future for information related to these applications, please contact me with the information provided here. You can see my email. It's jack.smith@eastwillemberry.ca, and my extension is 1252. So this concludes my overview of the application and my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there questions from members of council for clarification? Councillor Crone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to staff. I just wanted to just to clarify, just to confirm, this facility has been in operation for a few years, and we're just really taking the steps now to formalize it and amend our zoning. It's in the green belt, but it's the use is not prevented against in the green belt as well. I just want to know. In the years that it's operated, have we had any complaints about its operation? I don't. There be any noise complaints, but I'd be very curious to know if we've had any complaints. And in the time since the publication of this report for the meeting, have there been any additional comments of support or being against? Thank you,
Mr. Smith.
Yes. So to answer the first part, the operation has been in operation, I believe, since 2004. Back in 2011, they did do some discussions with town staff and regarding the implementation and legalization of these uses. But only up until recently did they actually come in with applications to the town. This was a result of an inquiry that they had done with the town back in 2019. And they were informed, or they were re-informed that the use wasn't currently permitted. So now they're going through that formal process now and trying to work with town staff to make things work. In regards to if there's been any comments since the time that we've prepared this presentation and report, no, there hasn't. We've only received one comment at this time.
And just to clarify, to confirm rather, the comment was in support.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. That's all, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Morton, do you have a question, comments?
No, part of my question was what Scott had brought forward, but I would think that after all this time and that there has not been any concerns by the residents up there, that we should at least, go through with this and think about it a little bit more. And because we may, after today's meeting, we may end up having more comments that we may have to look into.
Thank you. Councillor Crothers.
Thank you. My comment's more procedural and general, so it might be more for the clerk than for a planner. Pre-COVID, did we have statutory public meetings during the day? I'm just a little concerned, not so much for this one, but for the one that's coming up in a couple of weeks. We have residents who are trying to homeschool their kids, trying to work from home, and trying to also contribute to our statutory public meetings. The next one's a bit of a bigger one, and I'm just wondering if it's part of our practice to have large, or not really large, but significant statutory public meetings during the day.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Webster? Go
I
ahead.
could speak to that.
Thank you.
No, it's not our typical practice of former business pre-COVID. We would, planning meetings and significant public engagement would occur at evening. It's a new reality now. Mr. Ramuna will be bringing up actually an outreach being done non-statutory for our official plan coming up, which is planned during the day as well. It's a discussion point we could have with council moving forward about certainly for more significant items such as budgets and stuff like that, maybe having some of them occur during an evening session.
Thank you.
Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to Mr. Smith. My question relates to the living quarters. Obviously, and I think my colleagues on council have said, we haven't heard much as far as noise complaints, and I know we've got some far more conspicuous or offensive land uses in that area than a meditation center. But I'm just wondering about the living quarters and the monastery. What's the I don't want to call it capacity, but how many people are they? I'm trying to get a sense of the scale and scope of that building, and how many people would be sleeping there and housed there. Is it 10 or is it 50? That would help me frame the if it's just a house that has 5 or 6 bedrooms, that's a different scope than if it's a conference center. Thanks.
Mr. Smith?
Sorry, 1 second. Could you repeat the question?
How many people are going to be staying in the living quarters? Is it a big facility or is it a small facility?
So this is something that Deborah will be able to go into greater depth, but I don't believe at any point in time there would be more than 2 or 3 permanent monks at the house at any given time, or monastery, and then there would be, I believe, 2 or 3 temporary that would be there on a seasonal basis.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions from members of council? I'm not seeing any. We'll move to item 3 on our agenda, the comments and presentations from the applicant or the applicant's agent.
Good morning, Mayor Hackson, members of council, ladies and gentlemen. Are you able to hear me okay?
We are. A little more volume might be better.
Okay. I'm on the telephone, so I will do my best to speak up a bit.
Thank you.
My name is Deb Alexander with Alexander Planning. I represent the Vietnamese Zen Buddhist Meditation Center, the owners of this property. We have reviewed the town staff report. We're in agreement with the review, and thank you, Jack, for the overview. If we could go to the air photo context, I'd like to share some additional information regarding how the monastery and place of worship currently operate. So that's the site plan, but if we can get the air photo, I want to talk about what's going on around it also. I think it was page 2. There it is. Okay, so this property provides housing for up to 3 residents and up to 2 visiting monks. The worship services are offered once a week for about 10 participants during spring and summer months. During the fall and winter, this property is used primarily by the resident monks because participants' attendance at the worship actually drops down to about 0 at that time. There are 3 main annual festivals which are celebrated at the center. Those are the Lunar New Year, the Buddha's birthday, and Mother's Day. Those festivals specifically will attract up to 30 participants, so that's about as busy as it ever gets. As you've heard, this Monetary Meditation Center was established in 2004, and it's been on this site for 16 years. The monks are hoping to add a kitchen addition to their residence, and in order to do so, they're going to need to obtain permission from the town to continue their use and occupation of the property. So this is a 20-acre site. You can see it's quite large. The disturbed area is only about 2.5 acres. It's right up at the front. You can see centered around that little pond at the front. The balance is a natural heritage area, which is used for nature appreciation and walking meditation. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. The surrounding area uses include the Arbor Welding, the Blackwater Golf Course to the south. You can't quite see the Zephyr track on there, but that's there to the east. The rural commercial uses to the west and some vacant rural lands to the north. So we've done a natural heritage evaluation that was prepared by Plan B ecologists, and it's found that the continuation of this use is not going to result in any impacts to those surrounding natural areas. If we can go now to the site plan, and I'll talk a bit about how the space on site is used. There we go. Okay, so as you've heard, this site currently contains the monastery. That's the main building. It's actually a bungalow. It was built in 1985 as a standard residential bungalow, and then the meditation center purchased the property in 2004, and the monks began to occupy this space. You can also see the meditation center, which is purpose-built off to the southeast. There's also the accessory storage building a bit to the northwest. And the outdoor prayer area has a large statue of Buddha and some seating and prayer areas for kneeling. So as you've heard, we're going to do a future site plan application to permit the 40 square meter kitchen addition. So now in terms of how the center is used, large, peaceful natural areas are valuable to facilitate the practice of meditation. The preservation and the conservation of those natural areas on and adjacent to the subject property is a very important part of the lifestyle of the resident monks and the experience of members of the faith who visit the center. It's also a critical component of the Buddhist belief system, and it's an important part of their worship. So given the need for large natural areas for private contemplation and silent meditation and walking, this use is best suited to a rural location within and surrounded by broad areas of natural vegetation and undisturbed wildlife. And for this reason, this use would be unable to function to its intended purpose within a settlement area. As such, of course, the center is committed to ensuring that the surrounding green spaces are fully protected, maintained in an undisturbed state, and that ensures that these areas are preserved for natural heritage appreciation and quiet contemplation. Walking meditation is something that involves silently walking through the woods, sitting in various locations and just contemplating, emptying your mind, and just experiencing the area around you. And that really, there's some walking trails that are gently used at the natural heritage areas to the back. And of course, that's permitted in those designations. So having been on this location for 16 years, the monks have a demonstrated history of environmental stewardship and, of course, peaceful coexistence with their neighbors and that natural environment that surrounds them. I'm hoping that I've answered most of your questions, but of course I'm pleased to answer any other questions which council or members of the public might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there questions from members of council? I'm not. Oh, yes, there is. Councillor Boyd Clemente, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just wondering if this place is open to the public because it actually sounds quite appealing.
Through you, Madam Mayor, no, it actually is open only to the members of their congregation. However, I have had an invitation from the resident monks that if council would like to visit, they would be happy to give you a beginner's lecture on meditation and maybe a practice session, but of course that's up to you if you would like to take them up on that offer.
Thank you, Madam Planner. I think you've done a good job of explaining the purpose of this facility. Thanks.
Thank you.
As you were speaking, I saw some nods from members of council, so we may take you up on your offer to visit the site.
Lovely.
Are there any other questions from members of council? I'm not seeing any. At this time, I would ask if there are any comments, public comments at this time.
Through you, Madam Mayor.
We were advised by Mr. Smith, town planner, that there were no registered public speakers with regards to this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seeing no other speakers, Councillor Persicini, did you have a question? You're muted.
I'm just going to move it. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Crone. Thank you very much. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, staff. Thank you to our presenter today. We're we're much richer than we were before you started. So we certainly understand the application and the process. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will read out the resolution. Be it resolved that Development Services Planning Branch presentation and report P 2020-24 dated October 6, 2020 regarding the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment in Vietnamese Buddhist Zen Meditation Center 22093 Highway 48 OPA 2003 and ZBA 2005 be received, and that the comments presented at the Statutory Public Meeting regarding the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment Vietnamese Buddhist Zen Meditation Center 22093 Highway 48 OP 2003 and ZBA 2005 be received, and that comments presented at the Statutory Public Meeting be addressed by Development Services Planning Branch in comprehensive report to Council at a future meeting. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. We're at item F for presentations, and I note that there are not any at this time. Mr. Clerk, do we have any presentations I'm not aware of?
That is correct, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Item G is deputations, and likewise, we do not have listed deputations. Are there any that I'm not aware of?
That is correct, Madam Mayor. We do have none.
Thank you very much. We're at item H, and that's Development Services with myself in the chair, and we will move to item number 1.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This next item is there's a memo to introduce a power law control bylaw that's on the table for Council's enactment. It's a power law control bylaw to allow for the creation and sale of 4 townhouse units being constructed in Queensville by Aspen Ridge Homes on Jim Mortson Drive.
Thank you. Are there questions from members of council? Seeing none, could I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Foster, Councillor Morton, all those in favor? And that's carried. Second item is Joint Development Services Planning Branch and Legal and Council Support Services Report 202025, Terms of Reference for Cannabis Production Facilities Land Use Study. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As Council recalls, back on June 9th, 2020 of this year, Council passed and enacted a interim control bylaw to temporarily restrict development of the cannabis production facilities that were occurring throughout the municipality, specifically in the rural area. So this report before Council today is really provide Council with our work plan. Staff has been doing some background research on the land use study, which we're required to produce within a year, and that will result in an amendment to the zoning bylaw to deal with these facilities with respect to putting forward parameters, regulations, policies in place for Council's consideration around where we want these facilities, how we regulate them, where they're most appropriate. And so the recommendation too is really asking for Council's endorsement of the terms of reference, which is really more of a framework and a guideline that we've provided for council in Appendix 1. It really lists a number of the issues that we will be looking into and addressing in a future report to council with respect to outlining options for council's considerations with respect to moving forward on where do we want to see these cannabis production facilities, how to regulate them, and how to deal with them. A number of issues with respect to where they're appropriate, size, site plan control matters such as security issues, fencing, lighting issues. Obviously, we've heard about the odor issues as well. So we will outline all these issues and with some options and recommendations for council at a future report. We're looking at obviously coming back in early 2022. Our goal is to have the land use study finalized with some recommendations for council, ultimately a amendment to the zoning bylaw before the 1-year time period, which is June of 2022. Again, we will also need to schedule a statutory public meeting to consider any amendments to the zoning bylaw to deal with the issue moving forward. If there are any questions, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Foster and then Councillor Carruthers. Go ahead, Councillor Foster.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Mr. Ramona, you mentioned lighting to go along with some of the issues. I noticed in the term of reference structure that lighting wasn't there on its own. There was a separate section for odor control and air filtration. I just wondered, where does lighting fall into that, or is that something that's going to be added on its own, or am I just not seeing it?
To you, Madam Mayor. No, it's a good point, Councillor. It's really, we did identify air filtration as a separate item. Duly noted, lighting and security is obviously a concern that we'll be addressing. I think it really it'll be something that we'll address under sort of the site plan control process, because any new facilities, if we go that route, would be put through a site plan control process. But duly noted, it's something that we'll clearly expand on.
Thank you.
Councillor Carruthers.
Hi, I'm happy to move this, but I just want to add one word. When we're asked to endorse the terms of reference, we don't really have a complete terms of reference, we have a structure. So I'm just wondering if the second resolution could be that we endorse the terms of reference structure, and I'd be happy to move that.
Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To Councillor Foster's point, I had also flagged the issue of light pollution as well, and I'd like to suggest that we endorse the terms of reference structure as outlined in Appendix 1 of this report, as amended to include light pollution, subject to any further input. That way, it's put in there to say that we'd like to that is definitely an issue that we'd like to see addressed in these. And also, just I'm assuming that we've had a look at the prior report, because we have done a control bylaw in the past. I think it was probably about 3 or 4 years ago when the Harper government first started to allow for these production facilities. So that may be a spot for our staff to use as a springboard for this study as well, just to create a bit of a framework for them as well, not to lose sight of the work that was already done. Thank you. And I would be happy to second the motion.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, comments? Councillor Crone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to Mr. Ramono. I just want to thank you for putting this together. I think it's important to let the public know that this is a result of what came out of the interim control bylaw, that we need to put some belts and braces on our current bylaws, zoning bylaws around cannabis production. But I also think it's important to communicate that as a council, we're not outright opposed to cannabis production. It's just that if you're going to come to our town, you're going to have to do it in such a way that you're going to have to play by our rules, which is not the case that we're having with existing operations that we're dealing with right now in front of the courts and with the police. And so that you play by our rules, and so that we can ensure that the impact to the public is as minimal and painless as possible. So I think that's a really important communication point. But thank you for getting the ball rolling on this, and I look forward to the discussions that are going to come out of it. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Are there any other questions, comments? We have the motion in front of us. I will read it for those that perhaps cannot see it. Be it resolved that Joint Development Services Planning Branch and Legal and Counsel Support Services Report P2020-25 dated October 6, 2020, entitled Terms of Reference, there it is, of reference for the cannabis production facility land use study be received, and that council endorse the terms of reference structure for the cannabis production facility land use study outlined in Appendix 1 of this report as amended to include light pollution, subject to any further input, and that is moved by Councillor Crothers and seconded by Councillor Roy DeClemente. Any further questions? All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Are there any other reports, information at this point under Development Services?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, I did want to bring something to Council's attention that staff has been working with our planning consultants. We're assisting with our official plan update. And so we're working on our first public engagement session. So we will be putting notice in our website and local official local newspapers shortly. And so we're looking at scheduling an online community visioning workshop for October 27th, which is a Tuesday. And the purpose is really to discuss the principles and vision for a new official plan moving forward, and to seek input from the public and our residents. And so we're looking at 2 online workshop sessions, a morning session from 9:30 to 11, and then a second session from 1 to 2:30. As I mentioned, we think those morning and afternoon session will work well. Discussions with our consultants, they've been doing this in the virtual online world, and they're seeing a lot of public participation on these related to these online sessions being held during the day. Again, this will be our first of several public engagement and consultation processes as we move forward with our official plan update. But we will send out the notices shortly, and we'll send a notice out to council as well, just so you can put that in your calendar.
Other questions? Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Further to the comment Councillor Carruthers made earlier in our meeting, I might encourage the consultants to also, it doesn't have to be this time around, but for future, to ensure that there's an evening session as well for those who cannot attend during the day. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I have a mover and seconder for the update, please. Councillor Roy DeClemente, Councillor Persichini, all those in favor? And that's carried. We are at item I on our agenda, Community Parks, Recreation and Culture. We have one item, and that's Community Parks, Recreation and Culture memo and a video. Go ahead, staff.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. The memorandum provided is a quarterly update related to our Municipal Operations Center project. Pleased to report continued progress with the project. The project's approximately 80% complete within the assigned schedule, even due to a shutdown due to COVID-19, and well within the approved budget. I'd like to acknowledge and thank Chris Catania, our manager, municipal facilities, for his effort, dedication, and commitment to this project. Given COVID, there are challenges and risks with conducting an in-person virtual tour of the facility and construction. Accompanying this memorandum is a virtual tour of the construction project for council, staff, our residents, and businesses to view firsthand the project and the progress with this exciting new facility. I'd like to thank Laura Hanna, our Director of Communications and Customer Service, for assisting with developing and creating this virtual tour. Our next quarterly update is planned for the new year with the anticipated completion of the project. I'd like to also add that we are also doing a lot of work behind the scenes preparing for operations of the facility with COVID-19 safety measures and precautions. Staff are available to answer any questions that Council may have.
Are there questions? I'm not seeing any. I have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Persicini, Councillor Foster. All those in favor? That's carried. Item J on our agenda is corporate services. The first one is Economic Development Branch verbal update, special council workshop to be held on October 14th. Staff would like to discuss that.
Madam Mayor, thank you. We have a very informative and robust workshop planned for you for next week. And with your permission, I would just have our Economic Development Director, Margot Bejean, maybe provide you a little bit of insight into the work that we've been doing to prepare for the workshop and a little bit about what you can expect next week.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, just wanted to let you know that the workshop will be an opportunity to sort of affirm our stated economic development objectives, and the discussion is going to inform the updated strategy that's being developed. I'll be joined for part of the workshop by the consultant that helped us prepare the target industry snapshot, Dr. Nadine Jesrich. So she'll be able to provide some insight into the research that went into our workforce strengths and the sector growth opportunities that we have, and how then this again will feed into our overall economic development strategy. And in preparation, many of you have already accepted meetings to have a brief sort of discussion of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that will inform the discussion during the workshop, but also will help us build some of the priorities for the strategy itself. So for those conversations, I'll be joined by a member of the advisory committee, George Shriver, who's a experienced economic development consultant. And so we'll be having those conversations this week. Thank you very much for making yourselves available. And it'll be just an opportunity to sort of drill down into some specifics. I think what we're most interested in is getting your perspective on the opportunities. And then I'll be able to consolidate that information, and that as well will form part of the workshop discussions. So I'm hopeful that we'll have a great discussion next week, that it'll be interactive despite our physical distance, and that we'll come out of it with a really solid understanding of where we're going in terms of next steps.
Thank you very much. Questions? I'm not seeing any questions. Could I have a mover and a seconder then?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Foster, Councillor Morton. All those in favor? And that's carried. Item K is our Community Infrastructure and Environmental Services. And we have one report at this time. Staff, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have one memo for Council today, and it's a joint memo between CIES, Community Parks, Recreation and Culture, and Corporate Services. It's with regards to downtown Holland Landing streetscape enhancement project. We've also been advised that maybe we want to change the title of this to Downtown Holland Landing Revitalization, just to be a little more comprehensive. But essentially, the memo provides Council with a status update on the initiatives to improve aesthetics for the Yonge Street corridor through Holland Landing. Future steps will include developing a working group, including the town, the region, and community stakeholders, to complete a visioning exercise and an action plan. This group will look to improve, look at property standards in the area, look at some of the maintenance service levels that are in place, streetscape beautification, as well as looking at some economic development revitalization initiatives. So that's essentially, it's really just a memo to kind of kickstart this overall process. It's likely a multi-year project, but we're just trying to get this thing started so that we can start bringing back a plan and improve, make some good recommendations to improve that area over the long term. And we'll provide council with some status updates as the project moves along. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. I know that there's a number of members of council, both ones from this term that has just arrived, but also including myself, that have wondered for a long period of time how we can make a difference in Holland Landing, and Holland Landing particularly is Yonge Street. It's the entrance in and out, and it's not very pretty at this time. I'm wondering about the gas station that is still half there. We did finally get the pumps removed. However, the stands where the pumps were are still remained. The light standards are still there, and the property, quite frankly, is a mess. It's certainly not what we want to portray to our community of good property standards. And I'm wondering, under health and safety and property standards, if we may be able to take another opportunity to work with the owner and see if through some of our bylaws we may be able to immediately make a change. I say immediately, it could be several months as opposed to what we're going to be doing, but at least it's a start. And there's something about driving past there on a regular basis, it's just wrong. They have the owners have they have an obligation to clean up that facility. If it was a residence, we would push them. And I know we have. I'm not saying that staff haven't, but the results are minimal. So I'll just leave that with staff. That's one of my huge issues with that area along Yonge Street. The community center looks beautiful. The strip plaza, they have certainly upped their landscaping, etc. But the old gas station is an eyesore. So thank you. I'm really looking forward to the downtown streetscaping, etc. So with that, questions. I have Councillor Persicini, then Councillor Crothers. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Every time I walk down Yonge Street, across from I think it's the grocery store there in the corner there on the west side, it's really a mess there. It just looks like right in the corner there. It's very embarrassing. I don't know what we can do about it. It's just like homemade signs and billboards and just a mess. Just a mess. It's the whole corner is a mess. I don't know. I know we're looking at. I don't know what we can do about it, but something to look at. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Crothers.
Thank you, and thank you to staff for bringing this forward, and also thank you for the work that's already been done. The plantings and the increased maintenance along there have made a difference, but I have to agree with the mayor that until we do something about the gas station, that's the biggest piece there. I would have a shout out to both the market and the health center. I think they've done a really nice job of trying to revitalize downtown. I think it's kind of hard for some of the residents to feel like doing much on their property when they're looking across an abandoned gas station. And it's not like it's just been a couple of years. It's been well over a decade that's been abandoned there. So I look forward to this. And yeah, I did suggest that we maybe not call it just streetscaping, but it is a revitalization, because we're looking at planning implications. We're looking at economic development. All of that has to go hand in hand. We've done a great job with what we can do, and there's much more work to be done. I look forward to bringing all stakeholders together on this and making Holland Landing, a beautiful downtown. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Foster, and then Councillor Crone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to echo the statements, and I mean, the enhancements that have been done to date certainly are a great start. I see this as a challenge to kind of do this project, and Mr. Molinari will remember when we spoke together and we walked the street together with region officials and some others. We did notice that actually one of the biggest problems may be the street itself. The fact that over the years there have been improvements and kind of nothing matches up. We've got curbs that are different widths. We've got curbs that are there. We've got uncurbed areas. We've got boulevards that are a different width. Some paved, some are grass. The region did indicate to us at the time that it's kind of on their radar screen to do a bit of an update through there. We're just not sure when that's going to happen, and of course that'll be a big project. This is going to be a real challenge to try and put something together that we can make some differences down there without spending, I guess, good money after bad on something that may be torn up in the future that when they start to do the road. So this is going to be an interesting project, and I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Crone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to staff. Thank you for putting this together. I certainly echo the comments put forward by my colleagues prior. I think the beautification of Yonge Street is essential. You want to make it a place where people want to come to for commerce. I might be getting into the semantics here, but I think if we're going to talk revitalization, it doesn't just mean beautification. It means economic growth and assistance, and making sure that we're doing everything that we can to help the businesses located along there so that they can grow and hire more people, and of course pay taxes, which is always good. So maybe it's just a semantics, but that's I think if we're talking revitalization, we talk the whole holistically about the big picture about what we can do for the street. With regards to the gas station, I know the pumps have been removed. Have the tanks been removed? Because that's a concern, certainly an environmental concern. Do we need to let the Minister of the Environment be aware of our concerns around that? Because that can have some serious environmental impacts to local residents as well. Just a thought. I would love to hear anyone's comments. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
Just a comment, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead, Councillor Morton.
There is wonderful history in Hall Landing over the years, and perhaps there's something that can be done to bring a little bit of historical items back into that area as well.
Thank you. There certainly is a rich history in Holland Landing that we cannot forget. We need to feature it.
Exactly.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I have this moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Crothers. All those in favor? And that's carried. Mr. Molinari, is there anything else under Community Infrastructure and Environmental Services at this time?
Nothing further at this time, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. With that, we will move to Emergency and Community Safety Services. Chief, are you there?
Yes, I am. Oh, sorry. I thought you were gonna queue it up. So sorry.
No.
The memo before you or in your agenda with regards to business continuity planning is for awareness only. It's an exercise that staff are going to go through over the next several months that will enhance our emergency management portfolio with respect to the emergency plan. So it's an exercise that highlights key objectives during an emergency event that impacts our services and could create or to avert disruption. The exercise identifies areas of opportunity to improve our processes at all levels of the organization. So this is what we did when COVID happened. We did a very small portion of emergent or business continuity planning in order to deal with the situation in our services and our processes here. This is a wider scope. This is going to be an umbrella of all of our operations, and sort of an all hazards, not just COVID, but from the all hazards from the higher list. So it's just an exercise that we're going to go through. I'll keep you updated as the progress happens, and eventually I'll come to you for approval, and the business continuity plan will be embedded in our emergency plan. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions from members of council? I'm not seeing any at this time. Could I have Councillor Persicini move? Councillor Morton second?
Yes.
Thank you. All those in favor? That's carried. We are down to, thank you, Chief. Appreciate that. Is there anything else that we should be aware of?
Nothing more, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. We're at item M, legal and counsel support services. I have no reports at this time. Mr. Horner, is there anything to bring us up to date?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. Some really good news to share with council and to share with the community. This morning, I received formal notice from the Local Planning Appeals Tribunal that the LSRCA has withdrawn its appeal, that the October 20 hearing date is canceled, and that the LPAT has closed its file. So, final resolution to a long outstanding matter, and credit to Madam Mayor and Council, credit to CAO Webster, Deputy CAO Velchik, and also a really special thanks, I think, owing to General Manager Mark Oramuno and the planning team, who have done a lot of heavy lifting on this file. So I thought that everyone would want to know that this is finally resolved.
Thank you very much. Long time coming. Very welcome to hear this is finally put to bed. Thank you very much. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Oh, sorry. Are there any questions first before I call the vote? Are there any questions of Mr. Horner on his information at this time? I'm not seeing any. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Crone and Councillor Crothers. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Horner. Appreciate it. Our next item is administration. We do not have any reports. However, are there updates?
Madam Mayor, just a couple of brief ones this week. We continue to liaise with our York Region counterparts and allies with regards to the COVID matters, and today raising the public engagement at evening is another one that I think we'll be following up on, and possibly getting creative. I know we did talk to the official plan consultants, and one of my first questions I asked of them was, the traditional public engagement being at the community center or the town hall, and people showing up at evening, and they have done some outreach assignments during COVID, and actually were really pleasantly surprised at how good the input was digitally. And I think it's really a matter of allowing people to provide input when it's convenient to them. And we're hearing that loud and clear. So we might have to do a little something more creative. We do have a new website coming, and maybe we can utilize our website a little better, and for these public engagement things, almost make them a live link that people could click on anytime and at least see the video and provide some feedback while we're garnering feedback and while we're trying to stimulate this discussion. And so we will commit to following up on that. And secondly, again, hats off to our understated solicitor, Mr. Horner, who quarterbacked the LPAT withdrawal. couple other names there. Ray Wurzella did a fantastic job for us on mapping and showing the various layers. And Ray really showed his colors on that one. And Adam Robb, not to be confused with Rob Adams, who's the CAO of Whitchurch Stouffville, but Adam Robb, working with Marco, just did a great job of helping wordsmith the final resolution. So we're really glad we're back to business, back to productive matters. And on the good news for council, October 20th is when Mr. Marshall, our treasurer, is tabling the budget. So we'll have all resources and eyes be able to devote it to that project as we move forward. So we will take a look at that as well. So that's it for administration this time, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Webster. Any questions of Mr. Webster at this time? Seeing none, could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Roy DeClemente? Councillor Foster? All those in favor? And that's carried. We have item O on our agenda, adoption of minutes, and the first set of minutes are from September 20th, and that would be our council minutes. That was a special meeting, and the second item is our council minutes held on September 22nd. Could I have a mover and a second? Is there somebody with a question? Thought I heard it. Not.
No, I so moved it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Morton. And could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Crone. All those in favor? And that's carried. We are at item P, and that's correspondence for consideration. We have a letter from Chris Rayner, Regional Clerk, dated September 30th regarding the provision of ombudsman services. Are there any questions regarding this correspondence? Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just wondering, I read the correspondence. Is there a need for us to have a staff report back? It just seemed to me that we were taking advantage of the region's generous offer to support us in the provision of providing ombudsman services. So I didn't know if there was a need for a report, or perhaps there was a nuance that I was missing. Thanks.
Staff, could you please address that question?
Sure.
Warren, thank you.
I'm happy to do that, Madam Mayor. We've currently got contracted services with ADR to provide the ombudsman services, but that contract expires. I think it expires at the end of the year. And what the region has decided to do is they've decided not to renew it and to default back to the Ontario Ombudsman, who provides the service at no cost. And it's kind of an interesting bit of history. Municipalities in the past were kind of leery to default to the Ombudsman and have the Ontario Ombudsman provide that service. There was a preference on the part of municipalities to kind of go out and interview and retain and hire their own ombudsman. But frankly, there have been changes in the Ontario Ombudsman's office, and I don't think that municipalities have the same concern about that office that they've had in the past. And so I think a report kind of makes sense, because we can evaluate options for you in terms of moving forward for 2021 and make a recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Horner. I'm fine to move forward with the report, and I'd be happy to make the motion. Thanks.
Thank you. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Persuccini. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. We have our next item is going into closed business, and before we do, we had a video from staff that was prepared and ready to go, and we didn't take advantage of it. So I'm going to suggest before we go into the closed session, I was going to move it to other business. However, those that are on, public that are on with us may not be able to see it at that point. So I'm wondering if staff, if you could cue the video up from a previous report, and we can have a look at, I think it's our new building on Woodbine.
To the town of East Willemberry's new operations center. This facility will be the new home to our parks, roads, water and wastewater, and support our East Willemberry Emergency Services as the new home of the town's Emergency Operations Center. Let's take a look inside. We are starting at the main entry of the facility. In the future, residents will be able to visit the facility for various inquiries, pick up blue bins and green bins, and for staff to liaise with various contractors. Next up is our meeting rooms. This is one of 2 boardrooms. This room will be primarily used for meetings for up to 12 people, but will also serve as a breakout room whenever the town's Emergency Operations Center is activated. The EOC room is the central facility which the Emergency Operations Control Group directs, communicates, and supports emergency operations. When not in use, this room is suitable for large meetings and training. Down the hall is the North Field Operator entrance and corridor. This field operator entrance connects the employee parking area to the lunchroom, washrooms, and staff support areas. The lunchroom is a generous space for staff to take breaks. This space will have the ability to hold up to 120 people and can also be used for training. Carrying on past the lunchroom, we will see space for offices and staging. This area supports the various teams' administration functions. The generous staging areas allow a collaborative approach for each of the teams to receive daily work assignments and resolve issues before proceeding into the field. From the field operator entrances and staff support areas, a corridor connects the administration area to the service bays. Along this corridor, we have change rooms for staff. They are also connected to the washrooms, showers, mudroom, and a laundry room for work attire and equipment. Once we leave the change room corridor, we can enter the service bays. There are 5 service bays where town vehicles will be maintained and secured. Storage space will be used for tools, equipment, and samples. The outside of the operations center has many exciting features as well. This is a secured area. To enter the facility, staff will come through the gates at the south service entrance. In this area is the town's salt dome, which stores salt for winter maintenance, additional outdoor storage for seasonal equipment, and the town's first ever greenhouse, where our in-house horticulturalist will grow the flowers required around town. There is also a fueling area and available fleet parking. Thank you for visiting the town's operations center, and stay tuned for exciting updates.
Thank you very much. I'm very impressed with it. Staff have done a wonderful job. Could you remind me on our date that we expect to be open?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we're expecting substantial completion later in January of 2021, but we will require approximately 8 to 12 weeks to do fit up of the facility. That's movement of equipment over and phasing in the operations over 2 to 3 months. And there is a lot of fit up that has to happen with storage of different equipment and movement of different equipment.
It'll be a big job, and it'll be an interesting process as we watch things move from the back of our arena up Woodbine to the new home. Very well done. Questions? Oh, Councillor Persicini, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To you, I just wanted to maybe they should mention about being on budget. And first of all, congratulations. That looks so beautiful. It's so much excitement for us to looking forward to it. But maybe you can explain, Mr. Carmazon, about how we are with our budget with this project and how things are going.
Go ahead, Mr. Carmazon.
Through you, Madam Mayor, we are maintaining the budget. Staff is working diligently to monitor the progress as well as the budget. As you know, projects are measured by the time, the resources, the funds, and the quality of work. And staff is, in particular through Chris Catania, is very much focused on maintaining those areas of the project. So happy to report that we're at 80% of the project completion. We've still got a ways to go, about 20% worth of construction, and we'll seek to continue to maintain the budget and the timelines.
Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations to all.
Many times projects are judged by being on time and on budget, and I believe that we can continue to use that phrase moving forward with this facility. Thank you. Councillor Crothers, go ahead.
Thank you. It looks fantastic, and very excited to see this operational. A few years ago, we were able to offer free mulch to our residents at the arena, and I know since then we really haven't had the space for it. I'm wondering, I had been told that once the new operations center got up and going that we might be able to do that again. It's just such a great environmental piece. If we are trimming trees around town, to be able to mulch that up and offer it to our residents, and I'm wondering if there is space at the new facility to be able to do that.
Mr. Carmazon?
Through you, Madam Mayor, certainly we can provide space for the mulch program, and happy to report as well. We could do some programs on horticulture as well as arboriculture with our tree farm as well on site, which is an exciting added dimension for us to be able to grow native species and introduce those native species into the town.
Great. Any sort of coordination with the Environment Committee to do programs would be fantastic. Thank you.
Unlike some work yards and operations centers, it's really not open to the public. This one was planned to allow public interaction right from the beginning. So it's very different and very exciting. So by the summertime, we should be well underway with operational happening there, as opposed on Woodbine, as opposed to on Mount Albert Road. I should also remind members of council that this video is on the website, so if you'd like to share it with the community, that's available. And also there's a link on our agenda that will get you to the video as well. So it's a great news story, and we can share with our community. I think it's wonderful. Could I have a motion to receive, please? Councillor Persicini, Councillor Foster. All those in favor? And that's carried. We have a closed meeting in front of us now, so we will proceed into a closed meeting of Public Council for litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunal affecting the municipality or local board, Municipal Act Section 2392E, cannabis production facilities, a trade secret or significant technical, commercial, or financial information that belongs to the municipality or local board and has monetary value or potential monetary value under the Municipal Act, Section 2392J, Operations Center update, a trade secret or specific technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which will, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group, or persons or organization. Municipal Act, Section 2392I, Animal Control Services. At this time, I would ask that I have a mover and seconder to move into private session. Councillor Roy D. Clemente, Councillor Crone. Be it resolved that council proceed into a closed meeting of Municipal Council at 11:30 a.m. to deal with the following matters: litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local boards, Municipal Act, Section 2392E, cannabis production facilities, a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, or financial information that belongs to the municipality or local board and has monetary value or potential monetary value, Municipal Act, Section 2392J, Operations Center update, a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group, or person's organization, Municipal Act, Section 2392I, Animal Control Services. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you.
Mayor, excuse me.
to go public. Okay, we are now public, and we will rise and report from closed meeting of Municipal Council at 12:07. And that council endorse, and I'm going to say the following, and that would include the second and third point on item F in private session. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Morton, Councillor Persicini. Any comment? All those in favor? And that's carried. We are at item R, resolutions. I have none at this time. I have bylaws, number 1, that refers to item H1. I have a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Crone, Councillor Foster, all those in favor? And that's carried. Do we have any other business at this time? Mr. Clerk, do we have anything else?
Not that I'm aware of, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else aware of anything? Seeing no comments, we will move to item U, and that's a confirming bylaw. Be it resolved that bylaw 2020-082, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council meeting held on October 6, 2020, be taken as read and acted and signed by the mayor and municipal clerk. I have a mover and seconder, please. Councillor Foster, Councillor Crone, all those in favor, and that's carried. And could I have an adjournment at 12:09, moved by Councillor Crone, seconded by Councillor Persicini. Be it resolved that the meeting of council will be adjourned at 12:09 p.m. All those in favor? Thank you. We are adjourned. Thank you.